Hello, this is Caelan Huntress, and today I'm going to talk to you about March by Congressman John Lewis. This is a 3-volume graphic novel series, and it tells the story of the March on Washington. When Martin Luther King gave his famous I Have a Dream speech, there were 10 speakers on the mall that day, and John Lewis is the last surviving member of that group. He's been a pillar in the human rights movement for decades. He was one of the pioneers of the early civil rights movement. This is him sitting at a lunch counter at a time when it was against the law for African Americans to sit in certain restaurants, and segregation was the law of the land. The story goes back and forth between his struggles back then and the morning of January 20th, 2009, when Barack Obama was inaugurated as America's first black president. And the stories of that morning are really touching, because Obama recognized that the reason he was able to do this is because of the work of people like John Lewis. And this is a really important book to read nowadays, given the current events. This week, Donald Trump was elected president of the United States, and many of my friends are out in the streets protesting and saying things like, "Not my president," which is the wrong thing to say for 2 reasons. The first reason is because he is your president. He was elected by lots of Americans. And I think that what this book can help illustrate is who those people are. Because we've made a lot of advances in civil rights over the last few years. We've got marriage equality, so men and women are free to marry whoever they love. We've got all sorts of advances that are really frightening a large segment of the American population. And so they want to make America great again. They want to turn back the clock to times like this when they had a level of power over the culture that they don't currently enjoy. And if you've only lived in liberal places in America, you might not know how overbearing it is in places like the South when the men of power and influence are people that support Donald Trump. I think it's important to understand them because they are the secret heart of America. There's this passage at the end of this book that I'd like to read from. It's a speech that Lyndon Baines Johnson gave about civil rights. And he said, "In our time, we've come to live with the moments of great crisis. Our lives have been marked with debate about great issues, issues of war and peace, issues of prosperity and depression. But rarely in any time does an issue lay bare the secret heart of America itself. The issue of equal rights for American Negroes is such an issue. And should we defeat every enemy, and should we conquer the stars and double our wealth and still be unequal to this issue, then we will have failed as a people and as a nation. There is no Negro problem," he said. "There is no Southern problem. There is no Northern problem. There is only an American problem." The problem we face today is with our secret heart. And I think this election has laid bare that secret heart of America. We are a country that was founded on genocide and slavery. And other countries around the world are not shy about pointing this out about us, but we ourselves don't really like to mention the fact that while our founding fathers were talking about liberty, that they were actively oppressing most of the adults living in the country. This is the secret heart that we all have to face. This is not an us versus them problem. The people who elected Trump, they are not other people that you fight. They're our countrymen. Those are Americans. And so this secret heart is the real issue that we have to face. Reading this will help frame their struggle of what they want to get back to. And it'll help you understand the way that they interact. And I also feel that reading this is really important for people who are engaging in protests, because John Lewis was the leader of the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee. He taught organizations and trained them in the tactics of nonviolence, how to interact with an authority figure, how to take a beating, where to put your hands, how to get down, and how to behave in a nonviolent protest, because there's actually very many ways that you can get tripped up. It's like John Lennon said, they'll flick you in the face. They'll do anything they can to provoke a violent response because then they've got you. When you're violent, They know how to handle you. They can arrest you and book you and process you and detain you. And they've got all that figured out. And they can handle you if you're violent. But if you're not violent, they don't know how to deal with you. That's how Gandhi was able to defeat the British Empire, was through the power of nonviolence. So if you're going to be protesting out there, study the work of nonviolent communication. Read A Letter from Birmingham Jail by Martin Luther King. There's a section in here where Dr. King is in Birmingham Jail, and so it gave a really great context of story to these historical events of great significance. But I want to return to this idea of not my president, because there's a second reason why that's not a smart thing to say nowadays. In the age of social media, thanks to Edward Snowden, we know the depth and the breadth of the domestic surveillance program here in the United States. And if 18 months goes by and they decide that they want to get a list of all the potential subversives who are threats to the United States government, they go onto Twitter, they click "Not My President," and they have a list of everybody. Watch your mouth. We're entering a phase where what you say can be used against you later. We have freedom of speech right now, so far. And I don't know how much longer that's going to last. We might be moving into a real authoritarian state. So I am no longer going to discuss politics on social media. This is going to be my last politically relevant conversation, and after this, I'm going to shut up. I would love to be on the front lines, fighting the good fight, leading the protests, but I've got kids. And if I was arrested, their lives would be really difficult. And so I owe it to my kids to sit this out and to sit on the sidelines. But I'll be cheering you on from the sidelines, silently, with my Bernie Sanders action figure, hoping that he'll do what he should have done in the presidential election. We should be electing Bernie Sanders right now, but I'm not going to get into why that's not possible. He is in the Senate, and we've got other progressives who can be fighting the good fight. And if you're going to be out there on the streets in protests, fighting against the greatest military force in history, then I encourage you to read March. Read about the stories of those who came before you. John Lewis created this in collaboration with Andrew Aden and Nate Powell, and it's a fantastic read. The art is all in black and white because the issues are, they're about black and white. But if you've never done graphic novels before, they're more than just comic books. They're becoming their own art form. Like the moment that a ballot could be cast, they take a full page to give this. The visuals are a really compelling way to tell this story, and I think it's a lot stronger this way than it would have been if it was just a written form. And so I'm really glad that John Lewis got to tell his life story here and describe the struggles, because I think we could be moving into another period of great struggle where lessons like this are what we need to study. We need to understand the secret heart of America and work against it nonviolently. And we can make this change. And so if you're out there, I support you quietly and wish you luck. This is Caelan Huntress signing off.